What's up? It's me, Samin. So this is Logic Pro. This is the song thingy that I made earlier. Made it yesterday after class. Felt like it. Not really sure what it needs to be titled yet, but I kind of called it Flight of the Forest right now. It could be, I don't know, Forest Flight, Forever in Flight. Something weird. I like alliteration, but that's not crucial at the moment. The title and the meaning of all this is still up in the air. Still kind of figuring out what it means. Long story short, though, I kind of wanted to just walk through my thought process and what all this means. There's a lot of random stuff here that I'm not sure exactly how to handle. I don't know Logic Pro inside and out yet. It's just me playing around with it. So I might sound crazy. I might sound like I have no idea what I'm talking about. That's intentional. That's pretty much the truth. But the idea was if you can kind of understand why I did certain things, it would make you appreciate the song a little bit more. Because, quite honestly, it's supposed to be a little jarring. It's not necessarily the smoothest and simplest of compositions. So we could go ahead and get started. Long story short, this area in the middle here, where I'm actually moving the mouse, that's where you're going to see all the tracks, the little audio clips, the loops and the sounds. This is that massive list on the side where it kind of just tells you information about what it is. Most of these are just Apple loops, but they've been customized for tempo and all the other things that help with the time stretching, so to speak. This is kind of long. Well, the commentary is going to make it longer, no doubt. But of course, the song itself is like 6:40-ish, so maybe like 7 minutes total. Once again, like I said, I don't know what I'm doing, but I just figured this would be a fun little experiment to try. So, getting started, each of these colors represent a sound, whether it's a loop or something, and then each of these on the bottom here are the information about that track. So if I select it, you'll be getting like some, waveforms, or sometimes you'll get like a music sheet, depending on what kind of, audio thing it is. We'll just go through a couple of them and, help you understand why I did certain things. And maybe if we do this right, you'll be able to listen to it properly, and it should kind of help the experience along. So, like I said, this is called Flight of the Forest, but it's not necessarily indicative of what you're going to hear. There's not going to be any bird noises or, trees and stuff. It's just more of a mood. So I kind of started out with this thing called the freeway climbing synth. This is a very elongated one. It just kind of makes you feel like you either woke up in the middle of a dream or something, because it doesn't like fade in at all. It just starts literally hard just there. And the idea was to kind of make you feel like this isn't necessarily church. This isn't what you're typically used to. You're literally starting something that's gonna, be a little jarring. So once you kind of put that in, it gives you the options for, volume and track numbering, and all of these on the side are different, options that you could kind of modify. I left that default, but I did cut off a little slice at the end here. This little part, it's meant to like echo, which I didn't know really how to do, but I figured it out at the end, and it feeds into this what I call like a fade in for a heartbeat. And the heartbeat is kind of just to set the tone of here's something that's you can relate to in a situation where you have no idea what's going on. But once you kind of go through the heartbeat after the synth, there's a very, very heavy bass. This is called honor sub bass. I'm really hoping that whatever you're listening to the song on can kind of get that across. The bass leads into this choir that sings very well, and this is something I wanted to show. So for this choir, it's like a representation of the actual sounds that you can get on a keyboard, but it's in the MIDI form, so you can kind of see the patterns as we go through it, and when we play it, hopefully the playhead catches. We'll see. Anyway, so the idea for this part of the song was just to lead you into it. You'll notice that there's no real backbone at this point of the song. We're still at the atmospheric level, so to speak. So dark subterranean pad. This is just a synth pad where it pulsates a little bit, and I decided to color code these so they're a little easier to see. This part right here, this is where the song really starts. So once you kind of go through the choir and you're like, okay, so I understand that there's different kind of elements here. There's a synth type of, instrumental. there's voices, there's bass, and now suddenly you're kind of getting into foreign territory. This is on bar 16 where we kind of get things started. Um, so I wasn't sure at this point if I kind of wanted to evoke sadness, or some sort of audience with this choir. Like, this is technically the only like vocals that you hear throughout the song. Usually, typically in songs where you have a lot of instrumentals, you're kind of just observing from a third person perspective or something like that. But this one is like you provide a secondary view already. So now you're wondering, like, are you in the song? Are you part of the situation or any scenario? Are you still third party? We're still unsure. So that's the reason I put that in. And just a warning, the next shift after this is quite jarring. So if you wanted to like expect symmetry or like a peaceful dream, this is not going to be that. I really wanted to establish that this is unordered. So that's where we're headed from, like bar 18 and onwards. So after that, you'll get to listen to what this part is yourself. I'm not going to spoil it for you. But Abstract Atmosphere 55, this is basically the backbone, the spinal cord of this whole endeavor. It's robotic, it's dark guitar, it's repetitive. I layer on the bass, and then I layer on, increasingly annoying kits, subjectively. The whole point is to kind of get your momentum up and anticipate a break, because this goes on for so long, and we're about maybe, maybe 30, 40 bars through. You're trying to look for some weird forceful reprieve. So by the time we get there, we're like about a seventh of the way through the whole thing. So there's like a lot of overlays with different instrumentals to guide you where you're going to end up. You got pop ripples here. You got delay decoy synths. So each of these are supposed to kind of, amalgamate together with whatever the previous versions are. And you'll see like beat sequencers and all sorts of stuff to kind of like guide you through this journey. I'm really hoping I'm not like modifying the volumes accidentally by clicking on these, but who knows? We'll see. Oh, it looks like I am. Oops. So let me get rid of all those at some point. Whatever, you get the idea. So like I said, Abstract Atmosphere, the orange thing at the top, that's kind of where, everything's based off of. There's some new work I tried to do with spatial audio in this situation. I wasn't going to, but they just released a new version, so there's like a multi-channel repetition you'll hear every now and again. So the clef chords, they kind of bounce between the left and right channels, and some of the piano keys actually fade in to the guitar strums, which is like coming up maybe around halfway. That was a little hard to do, but I'm very excited because it sounds really, really nice. Each break that I introduce here within each track, they kind of go through, and they're basically just me trying to repeat that these sizes within the time structure are supposed to be that way. Whatever's happening in this song or this scenario, it's pretty much out of your control. So while it may seem like, this is just shoddy amateur music making, it absolutely is. But there is a little bit of like thought behind it. So what you hear is at least 4 or 5 different things at a time. And if you can kind of catch which ones fade in and out, that would be ideal, so to speak. So this took a while. Like I said, each chord that are just mostly live loops, they're just stretched to kind of give a little bit of structure. I tried not to mess with the volume automation except for like the heartbeat at the top and whatever accidentally happened during this recording. Like I said, I'm brand new to it, literally. So that's about the same. The amount of tracks I have, if you expand this out, starting at 1, we have about 49 different tracks. So each of these represent a different sound at any given point, a different loop for whatever reason. They're meant to kind of guide you towards a specific sound throughout the length of the composition. So some of these are, really jarring, like I said before. They're meant to kind of hit you full on. More than half of the 49 are actually coming at you full force until at least half the track, where I try to like guide forward with bass and an arpeggio instead. But a lot of these decoy synths are meant to kind of just move you forward while this really heavy, spine, so to speak, is carrying you through. So at this point, by like bar 55, right where this first part ends, the idea is you're kind of infused with the second track, which is the Atmosphere 55. You're not necessarily needing it all the time. So I added some directional positioning later, so I thought it would be cool to kind of have a surround effect by the halfway point. And then of course there are like piano touches on the bottom, so you'll notice like the electric keys here, if I can kind of get that to show. They kind of change tempo and they move in a very gradual way to the middle of the song. I included a lot more sub bass drops between the kit just to kind of keep you grounded. There's a lot of clavs here, there's arpeggios at the top. These are going to be pianos, and then there's like a little bit more synth here. So I kind of broke this up from what it's supposed to be, just so we have a little bit of variety, and you'll get the, the intermittent spinal cord here, so to speak. And once we kind of get to this point, which I should probably show you the full breadth of what I'm looking at here. This is, of course, the vertical view. Each of these tracks, of course, are horizontal, so you can see like the length of the song, but if we zoom out all the way, it looks like this. So we start out, of course, with the atmospherics. We got the spine. We have the, carry-throughs. There's a little couple complementary touches. It goes down fair to this part, and each of these, like the lower down, I kind of keep them as bass and sometimes synth. And of course, these are all the, intermediaries that you kind of get. But at this point, we're kind of like through the halfway point. Like I said, this is where the song kind of slows down a bit. The whole idea is to kind of bring back an old friend, or understand that whatever you went through here from bars 1 through about maybe, 100 or so, that's some jarring stuff. You're not necessarily supposed to feel at home. You're not supposed to feel comfortable with it. However, the rest of it, from bars 105 until the end of the song, the idea was to kind of bring back a complementation of new elements with synth leads, piano, ground shaking bass that I'm really hoping that you guys are listening to, and of course the spinal at the top. But the whole format for this entire section here, I'm not really sure if it's complete yet. It's just something that I kind of settled on at the top for this particular section. And then on the bottom, we just kind of added a couple more ruminating patterns for pianos. We got this particular type of beat kit, which is not the same thing as the bass that we have in the front, but it does fade into it quite nicely. So I wanted this element right here to kind of fuse. And the whole point of this was to say that, all right, this was something you went through, this is what you're going through now, and this is what you're going to be capable of doing because of what you've already experienced. And of course, like I said, it's a really, really weird project for me because I didn't really think about doing this. It just kind of happened. But if I'm being honest, I really love the way it sounds from at least this part onwards. So there's going to be a lot more cleanup. But anyway, with all that said, I just feel like this is something that we tried to, figure out. And maybe with like a little bit more meaning, it'll be helpful for me to understand what the next steps are. But anyway, thanks for listening. You're going to listen to the actual song here in a bit. Hope you enjoy it. If not, I would really appreciate some feedback. We'll see what happens with this after this gets published. But for now, it's just a really, really, a really interesting composition. All right, enjoy.